Hi everyone, welcome to the JJ View, your go-to spot for fascinating chats with amazing Chinese American minds. Today we've got somebody seriously global in the house. Born in Toronto, Vancouver, did the college hustle in Zhenzhou, China, worked at Huawei for 4 years, and then decided why not start a global communications and consulting gig in the heart of New York City. So here we are, super excited to dive into Chris' journey and get the lowdown on how he's been navigating the wide world of business in this crazy, ever-changing geopolitical scene. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. It's good to be here with you, and I'm glad to connect with you here in New York.
Yeah, so Chris, I heard you just landed in New York a few days ago, right? After your trip to China. So I mean, your WeChat moments were all blowing up. Looks like you had a really fascinating adventure there. Now over here in the U.S., we've seen headlines about China's economy entering a deflationary scenario. But hey, why don't you share some news with us? Because you were boots on the ground. So spill the tea. Did China really slow down, and how was your experience there?
Yeah, it's good to be here with you, Jan. Like you mentioned, I come back and forth between Shenzhen and New York quite a bit. So Impact's headquarters is here in the World Trade Center downtown. But myself, I was actually mostly in China last year, mostly in Shenzhen and other cities in mainland China. And like you mentioned, there's obviously the effects from COVID are still ongoing in China and overseas in the U.S., including around the world. So I think we're seeing a lot of that. But the trend of Chinese companies, especially higher end tech and products and brands going overseas, this is a huge opportunity for many businesses, and that's what we do at Impact. We help Chinese companies with their overseas expansion. So I try to spend time between both countries, and I'm in the U.S. for the next month or two.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you were in China for 20 years, right? I mean, you went to China 20 years ago, and you did your college there. So you are kind of more Chinese than Canadian, right? Is that correct to say?
I guess in my mind, I'm a fake Canadian. That's for sure. I haven't spent a lot of time in Canada, to be honest. My heart is in Shenzhen. Actually, I love Shenzhen. The speed, the openness there. The people who go to Shenzhen are true entrepreneurs and people who are looking to achieve their dreams. So I grew up in Toronto, like you mentioned, and I spent my first 4 years in China were as a international student studying Chinese language and literature in a bachelor program. Yeah, so in Zhengzhou, which is in central China.
Yeah, so what made you want to go to China in the first place?
There wasn't a huge reason at the beginning, to be honest. I was actually studying English literature in Toronto at York University. And one summer, I decided to go on a trip to Asia, the first country being China. And when I got there, China in 2004 was not in my mind, I was expecting to see a very rural place, maybe lots of fields, lots of rice paddies, lots of farming going on. But when I got to Beijing, looking out at the horizon from my hotel room, there were hundreds of cranes. The city was building up from the ground up, I guess, back then, and it really gave me the idea that, hey, maybe I should stay here. So I had the idea to continue my studies in China, and eventually I decided to go to central China, which is along the Yellow River, where Zhengzhou is. It's where the Chinese culture really started 5,000 years ago. So everywhere you go, there's history and old buildings, things to learn there. So I found it very interesting back then.
That's awesome. Chris, I've been keeping tabs on your company, Impact Meixun. I remember it kicking off in New York 4 years ago, and now you've got offices all over Shenzhen, Singapore, Toronto, Vancouver, New York. But here's the juicy part: you are exclusively in the game for Chinese companies. So what's the deal there? What's Impact's mission?
Yeah, so I guess my whole career since going to China 20 years ago has been as a bridge. When I graduated from university, I began doing consulting in Suzhou near Shanghai. And back then I was helping American companies do business in China. And now Meixun Impact does Chinese companies to the world. So we specifically solve the cross-cultural challenge. So we help companies with their relationships overseas. We help them make friends overseas. We also help them build their local connections for sales channels. So everything we do is basically connected to, I would say, the how you build trust and how you make friends overseas.
Great. Now, Chris, I'm really curious about your journey at Huawei. You spent 4 years at Huawei, obviously the tech giant based in Shenzhen. We know that the company was smack in the middle of the US-China tech war drama. So give us a sneak peek into those 4 years. So what was like working at Huawei, and did that experience play a role in inspiring your entrepreneurial venture with embarked?
Yeah, I would say my time in Huawei and also my time in Shenzhen during those years were very important for me. With embarked now, we have a promise to clients that we bring the speed and quality of Shenzhen to the world. So in Shenzhen, things happen very quickly, at high quality and very efficiently, and we want to bring that efficiency to the world. So a lot of that efficiency I actually learned from Huawei and Shenzhen, I guess, to set your standards high. So you're right. There's a lot to the topic of Huawei is a huge one. So we can chat a bit more if you like. But when I was in Shenzhen, I think the few takeaways that I would say being at Huawei were my standards were already high, and when I joined Huawei, they were higher. That would be the first, and the second is also to think big. Companies like Huawei, there's also other tech companies in Shenzhen, of course, Tencent, for example, DJI. These companies are also setting big goals and achieving those goals, maybe sometimes exceeding those goals in China and overseas. So I think seeing those role models and the way those companies are managed gave me some inspiration to do something small of my own also.
Yeah, so now let's talk about the baby of yours, embarked Meixun. So you mentioned that you have big plans for 2024. So tell us more about your big plans.
Yeah, so I guess from a big picture perspective, what's our goal at embarked? My goal is I hope that when Chinese companies think of going overseas, whether it's to North America, to Europe, to Southeast Asia, to the Middle East, the first partner that they think of to reach out to should be Meixun or embarked. We are still very far from that goal. We're on the way, and my hope is within the next 2 or 3 years we are able to say that we're the go-to partner for Chinese companies going international.
Wow, that sounds really exciting, and it's really a comprehensive service that you're going to provide to future clients. So now I want to dig a little bit deeper, because when Chinese companies come knocking on your door for PR and consulting magic, so what are some hurdles that they face, and any challenges or some hilarious misunderstandings that you've come across as they try to crack the code of North American market?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, that's for sure. The cross-cultural communication and management is the biggest one, I think. How do you build trust in a new culture? In a culture or a country that's different from your own is the biggest challenge. So the way you build trust in China is different from the way you build trust in the US, and how you lose trust is also different in both countries. So
How so? How so? Can you give us an example?
I'll give you a very specific example for me. So I've been in China a long time. If I send a message on WeChat, my expectation is whoever I send it to, I should receive an answer within 2 or 3 hours, no matter when it is. So if it's
Wow.
the weekend or at night, of course, 3 in the morning, I'm not going to expect a response, right? But if it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., responding in 2 days is way too slow for me, and I will lose trust for a business side. But on the other side, in the US, of course, trust might be do what you say you're going to do at the right time, right? It's not necessarily about how long it takes. It's more, hey, I'll get it done at this point. I'll respond to you when I get to your email, etc. So it's not, neither one is right, neither is wrong. But the point is there's different expectations in different parts of the world. In Shenzhen, if you send a message and it takes 2 days to get a response, that person is probably not a good person to work with. So in North America, that's why we say we bring the speed of Shenzhen to North America. So our Chinese clients can receive a fast response in the middle of the night in New York if needed. Yeah. So I think that's one part of it, how you build trust. Another interesting example I could give you is when you have dinner in China. This is a real example I had with a client once. I brought an American business person to Wuhan in China, and the Chinese business partner used his chopsticks to get some food and put it onto the American's plate. And the American became very angry. He said, I know how to use chopsticks, I'm not a kid. So he felt disrespected because the person thought he was being treated like a kid, right? Whereas the action was actually a sign of respect from the Chinese business person. He wanted to say, hey, I care about you. Here, I'll give you food before I eat. So the same action was interpreted completely differently by two different cultures. And it resulted in the relationship being worse, even though the person who wanted to build trust had good intentions. So there's 1,000 other similar situations connected to culture in business. When you're talking to people, when you're shaking a hand, when you're looking at people in the eye, how you talk, what you say, do you say thank you, etc. And how strong is your handshake? those sort of things. All of those lead to trust or distrust. So if you ask me, that's the biggest challenge for Chinese companies going overseas, because I think every country is different, right? The expectations are different, so you really need to have a local team to help you understand the local market. That's why we really emphasize localization in impact.
Your experience in Shenzhen, I think you highlighted efficiency, right? And obviously efficiency really matters in every aspect of the business. And also you talked about kind of the localization of your business and understanding the local culture. Those two parts are really important as well. So I mean, as a foreigner yourself, navigating the China market kind of as an outsider. So what are some challenges that you face and how do you navigate that?
I think that there's two main things. One is to be patient. If you're in any new environment, you're going to run into challenges. Anything you do in life is going to be tough if you're doing something new. Going to a new country, starting a new company, reading a new book, whatever, you're going to have challenges. And I think being patient is the most important thing. Patient with yourself and also patient with other people. So don't jump to conclusions. And the second is to have a long-term perspective. So whatever you do in the first month or maybe two months, maybe 1 year, it's probably not going to be very successful. It's going to be much slower than you expect. So having a long-term plan and a long-term perspective to trust the process and just keep going. Don't give up. I think that's the most important thing. And to go back to that first point about being patient, I think it's important to be positive, and when you face challenges, treat it as an adventure. When you're in a new country, in a new place, it's easy to get frustrated. I know a lot of people who have gotten frustrated in China. I've seen a lot of people come and go, and a lot of it is maybe running into a challenge and giving up, thinking, okay, this country is not for me. And likewise, if you think of Chinese companies coming to the US, similar challenges, many will think, okay, we're not welcome here, we're leaving, we're going to close. We didn't make money this year, we're going to change the direction. So sometimes that's the right thing to do, and sometimes it's not the right thing to do. You need to really know when to not give up, especially when you're in a new market.
So you really sums up your secret sauce for success. And another thing I want to add is I know that you strike me as the early bird gets the worm kind of guy. So I want to maybe dive a little bit deeper. So what really are some key characteristics that can lead to success, you think?
Wow. The first thing is I don't feel successful yet, so I think the most important thing is what I know I am right now is I'm better than yesterday. I'm better than yesterday. So if you want to say what is success, we should probably define it first. When I say success, I think we're making progress from last year, from last week, from yesterday. So if we're getting better each day as a company or as an individual, that's the most important thing. There'll be no day where if one day you make $10 million, that doesn't mean you're successful. It means that day you made a lot of money. but maybe for other reasons, maybe you're not in a better situation than yesterday. Who knows, right? So I think the successful person will recognize that their goal is to be better than yesterday and not perfect. Other than that, I think I can share a few things that help me work effectively, I guess. You're right, I do wake up early. I'm usually up around 5:30 and go to the gym. That's the first thing I do in the morning. And that puts me in a great frame of mind for the rest of the day. So I'm addicted to the gym. That would be the first thing. The second thing, I think, from how you manage your day, you need to know. This is something one of our Mei Xun's investors taught me. You need to have a stop doing list. So there's many things you can do in the day. When you open your email, there's 1,000 things that you can respond to. You got your text messages, you've got your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your WeChat. Lots of messages, lots of things you can do. How do you decide what to do? The first step is to cut away what you should not do. So stop doing list. So the stop doing list might be, hey, you know what? I need to stop scrolling through TikTok. Just as a silly example, right? Or it might be, I need to stop getting involved. I need to stop having some sort of meeting. Maybe my team wants me to be on a meeting that I don't need to be on. That's a stop doing list. Okay, that meeting doesn't need me. You guys can have this meeting. I don't need to be at this meeting. I have other things I need to focus on. So cutting away the unimportant stuff and focusing on the important is also a key for me, I think. And the last thing is knowing what time of the day is best for you. When are you most in the mode? So for me, that's definitely in the morning or in the evening. Around now, it's 8:30 at night right now in New York. So during the daytime, it's a bit of a lull for me. But I think that's also because in the morning and in the evening I have lots of meetings with China. So I'm busier, so I'm maybe more energetic too. So if I have an important thing to do, I'll probably put it in the morning or later in the evening, and not at 2 in the afternoon when I'm feeling sleepy.
Reflecting 2023 is not an easy year. The U.S. dodging a recession, China doing the deflationary dance. Now you're steering the ship at impact. Lay it out for us. So what were some challenges you faced in 2023?
Oh, I would say there were many challenges. I'm trying to think which ones we should raise. I often say impact has 1,000 problems. Our goal today is to have one less problem. So I think the challenges for me were not related to geopolitics, were not related to the economy. If you're, as most of us, your audience, you and me, the business we're doing is a very small fraction of the whole economy, right? So even if the economy declines, even if it shrinks by 1%, which it didn't do, it's still growing very slowly, right? Even if it gets smaller, the market is still huge. So there's lots of opportunity to find somewhere where you can provide value and find customers and find business. People still need to do all kinds of things every day. People need help. There's work to be done in the economy. So my challenges were not related to that. I'm not too worried about the big picture. We can always do something better than someone else. But my challenges are with as we grow. I need to also grow as a leader, as a manager. The person who I was 2 years ago and who I needed to be 2 years ago is different from now. And I guess knowing what type of person I need to become, what skills do I need to develop, and how I develop those, and am I developing them in the right way? Those are the challenges I would have as the founder of Impact right now. So how do we hire people? How do we develop the team? How do we build more products? Like I mentioned, we're going to release new products. Those products might fail. I don't know. So we need to decide how we serve the market and move forward to try to grow faster. So to answer your question, I guess the challenges in 2023 were related to growth of the company, and also thinking about the longer term direction of how we serve the market.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I want to take a step back. I have to say that you're really global citizen. You know, you stay in New York for a couple of weeks, but then you have to go back to China, maybe for a longer term, you know, and then you travel to Singapore. So you're all over the globe. If you pick one place that you want to stay for, you know, 10, 20 years, what that place would be?
Oh, it'd be Shenzhen for sure. The people in Shenzhen are my tribe. They're so Shenzhen, for people that don't know, Shenzhen is where the people from all around China and around Southeast Asia, I guess, will go there to. It's sort of like the Silicon Valley of China, right? So if you have an idea, if you have a project you want to do, if you have ambition, you'll probably go to Shenzhen to start a company. And the people there are daring, they're bold, they're smart, and they're doing interesting things. They're also failing a lot too. And there's some people I know in Shenzhen who will compete to see, hey, how many times did you fail? How many times did your company, how many companies have failed? Because it shows, hey, you failed, but then you got up again, right? So the environment there is very inspiring in that way. The weather is good, and the food is very good too, and it's a very convenient place to live. It's very advanced with e-commerce. With Meituan, you can order everything you need online, and it's delivered in 20 minutes to your door. And it's just overall very convenient and fun place to be. The second option for me would be New York. I love New York also.
So we're almost run out of time, but before we wrap up, what's your advice for millennials who also have this entrepreneur spirit and who want to be a successful entrepreneur? So what's your advice to them?
Great question. I think the most important thing is to build your network. So make more friends. In Chinese, I always say, 要先交朋友. Now, specifically what you can do, anyone who, a young person, if you're thinking about starting a company, look my name up on LinkedIn and send me a message, and we can have a coffee chat in Shenzhen, in New York, or by Zoom. So you can add me and we can have a coffee. One cup of coffee, not just with me, if you look for someone else that's helpful for your career, a cup of coffee might change your life if you talk to the right person. So add me on LinkedIn and let's have a coffee. That's my advice.
That's very inviting, I have to say. So really fascinating conversation, Chris. Thank you so much, and much success to your firm in 2024. So for more insightful talks, make sure to sign up for the JJ View. Until next time.